All right, beautiful people. It is a beautiful day outside today. So today I'm doing something very unusual. I got my microphone, my laptop, my web camera, and my beautiful iPad Pro. And today we are sitting outside in this beautiful weather, and I'm going to give you guys another drawing. And this drawing is one that I just did in my previous episode, that you can see in the previous video, where I taught you guys how to draw in symmetry in Autodesk Sketchbook and then how to bring it over into Procreate and convert it into a really nice inked drawing. Okay, now today we're going to start taking some color to this guy and starting to build him up and give him some structure. We'll see how long this goes. This may be a multi-parter, or we'll go from here and just begin some structure. Okay, so this guy is really cool. I do love what I see here. I want to keep building him up and giving him even more structure. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to size him up a little bit to fit a little better in the canvas, so that way it makes it really easy to color, and then we're going to go ahead and start doing color fills and just getting this guy structured out so we can get some real cool color in him and really start making him pop off the canvas and really just be kind of like, you know, kind of like fierce and ferocious. Okay, so let's go ahead and get down to it. I am working in Procreate on my iPad Pro, and I'm going to go ahead and start. You will hear a lot of stuff. Actually, he just drove through here in my previous video, so you may hear loud trucks driving by and stuff like that, or sprinklers, or my father-in-law working in his shop in the back and stuff. So I apologize, but it's a free video on YouTube, right? So I am definitely going to enjoy the beautiful weather out here and chatting with you guys while we work on this video, okay? All right. So we got 3 layers right now. We have my original sketch layer, we have my perspective line that I put in here, and then finally my inked layer. So I'm not going to worry about these other 2. I'm actually going to delete them. And something I do at certain key points is I literally just go back to the gallery, and then once I'm in the gallery, then I will jump back into the drawing. And I feel that that kind of saves the drawing, and sometimes the Procreate will crash on occasion, especially if you're working on a high-resolution file, or you're recording, which I always record my drawings. I always record them from start to finish. And so if you decide to take like 10 layers and duplicate them all at once, that can make Procreate kind of cry, and that can make it shut down. So the best thing to do sometimes is to hop back into the gallery and save it. I find that that seems to be a way to kind of save the content, and it seems to save it properly. So I would suggest continue to run with that, okay? All right. So, and it doesn't crash often. It's just I work with very high resolution files. So I'm going to go ahead and take my doggy, and I'm just going to bring him right down here to the bottom. That way, when I decide to put color in him, he's not bleeding onto the whole canvas because some of his lines aren't cut off. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to give him a nice big thick line around the outside, because I really like to do that. So I feel like it makes it very makes it pop. So I'm just going to quickly here begin structuring out this line. And I think I've talked about this in some previous videos too. Actually, I'm sure I have. It's just my personal technique to really build up structure. And I find that kind of smoothing out some of these lines, it just really gives it a bit more of a vector effect, which I love. And I might be doing some vector lining in this video. I'm not certain yet. And when I say vector lining, I mean shadowing with vectored dagger strokes or rat tails, or whatever the proper term is that you may recognize if you've been in the world of airbrushing at any point in time in your life. Okay. Build up this ear. And come down the other side. I'm not too concerned when I'm doing this technique. I'm not too concerned about where light is hitting and trying to get the thick and thins just right. If I like what I've done previously in the structuring that I've drawn, then I won't do this technique. But I find that this technique does help kind of cement the character in such a way where it makes it really easy to start pulling out details within the face. So having a really thick structured line around him really helps with that. Okay. And sometimes I like to round out some of these areas. So like right here, instead of just bouncing out and coming down, sometimes I'll round out that area so that gives it a little bit of structure on top of the structure. And we'll come down here and seal it off. Okay, so this does two purposes. One, it makes it easier to make sure that all the colors that I'm doing stay inside the artwork. And then second, really makes him pop. He looks like he's popping out a little bit more. Now, something else I want to do is I also want to pop out his face off of his body a bit more. So I'm also going to apply this thick line to the muzzle and to the structuring of the face, because this muzzle is closer to us. So to add the broad stroking to this part of the face as well is really going to bring his face inwards at us more so, and it's going to push his body into the distance just a little bit. You'll see that here as I zoom out now. And you can see that it's really put a focus on the face and on the shoulders, and you can really start to see that structure starting to show through, and it looks really cool. If I like what I got, which I do, I'm going to merge my two layers together. So merge down, and now that's one individual layer. And that's great. Now I'm going to tell that layer to become a reference, and we'll start coloring it up. By the way, I did mention in my previous video, I will mention it here too, I know I'm looking down a lot, which is not a very good thing to do on camera, but I find that this is just the easiest way since I'm outside and I literally have my iPad in my lap. This is the best way to do it for now. So since I have set this layer as the reference layer, now anything I do with the colors are going to be affected by the reference layer. Helps out quite a bit. I'm going to do the same kind of doggy that I did previously, where maybe we'll go a little bit red in the brown tones, and I'm going to color this dog brown. Okay, and you grab from the color over in the corner, and I know you can't really see that too well on this canvas. Hang on just a second. So there's the color picker up here in the corner over there. You grab the color and you pull it down to the area that you want to fill, and you release. So it works pretty well. And you can see it's filling up quite nicely. Okay. And now with a little bit extra here, I can come in here and paint in these areas. And just give this really nice little quick effect. I could even fill them in, but sometimes I just go classic, you know. I could have done a lot better on the chain, but I'm not doing this artwork for anyone in particular. I'm just doing it for myself and for teaching you guys, so I'm really not that desperate to perfectly get things marked out here, and even cleaning up this whole heart chain thing here in the front, I'm probably not going to worry about that either too much. Unless I really like it and decide I want to make it a t-shirt design or something, then I'm just going to hash it out here. Okay, so his mouth is looking pretty dry here, so we're going to go ahead and put some color in there. I'm going to yellow up his teeth a little, just to make them natural, not to be gross. I'll probably, windy, probably try and color out some of this this yellow here in the final shading, but we're just doing the flats right now. One thing you want to be careful of as you're clicking and dragging your color is make sure that you're getting it in those areas, because if you get it on the line itself, on the what am I saying? If you get it on your ink line, it's going to fill the ink line improperly, and it's going to look really weird. So try to make sure you get in your fill areas properly. Let's work on the gums. I'm going to do pinkish gums. Actually, let's do brownish gums, like brown-black, because they're kind of that on a dog in key areas. So I'm going to make sure I have its own layer. And you can see it's not quite filling in some of these areas here if I zoom in real close. So I think I'm just going to hand fill in these areas here. And I'll usually go back and try and clean some of this up in post before I send it to the client. But it's a good way to quickly get something filled in. Okay. I am also going to go ahead and just hand paint in the gums here for the teeth. And I realized that I didn't outline them, or I didn't put a tongue in here, so I'm just not going to worry about it at this point. I find sometimes I draw a little bit too realistically. I feel like I have to get certain things, and then you look at cartoons and you see about how simplified they are That character only has one eye. That character's legs aren't approximated to his body, and they look awesome. Why am I being so picky? And I find that that's because I like to do things right, and sometimes doing it right actually messes up the opportunity of doing something creative. And so don't let your desire to do something exactly right mess up your opportunity to be creative. That's where I keep telling you guys to be brave and to shoot past your comfort zone, because hands down, that's the reason why we fail, because we're not pushing past our comfort zone. We are stuck in the mire of doing things right or doing things exact, and it's a chance to hurt yourself. It really is. So here I'm trying to fill in the nose, and it's not quite filling in, and I'm realizing it's because that nose is not sealed off because of my perspective or my fill. So I just quickly drew in those two lines. I'm on my own layer, and I can quickly fill that in, and I'm also going to quickly go through here and fill in the nose. Just like so. Now, I do like to go kind of crazy with the eyes. I usually don't worry about putting pupils in the eyes of my crazy dogs and stuff, so what I'll usually do is we'll go with a yellow, a high, hot yellow, and we'll shade that into something kind of ghostly or freaky. Other leg falling asleep. Okay. Alright, so let me zoom out here. So dog's coming along just fine. The only thing I don't have is the collar and the the leash or whatever, and whatever else here. And I'm okay with that for now. I'm going to leave that just as is. I'm not certain what I'm going to do with that, or if I'm going to do anything with that at all. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you guys a technique. Alright, I'm going to show you guys a technique I was going to say for an advanced video. I don't like that I have to weigh the advanced videos based on the free videos. I would love to share everything with you guys, but it stinks sometimes because you really... I'm going to do it. If you guys appreciate this video, consider becoming a patron, please, because I would love to just go all free and share everything with you guys because I'm getting support from y'all. This is actually a really hard choice for me, but I really want to do this, so I'm going to do it anyway. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and delete my excess layers. I'm going to select all of my layers that are ones that need to be in a group. I'm going to group them, and I'm going to close the group, and now I'm going to save, which basically means I'm going to hop into the gallery to make sure I don't lose my content here, okay? I'll jump back in. I'm going to go and swipe to the left, and I'm going to say duplicate. If it messes up, the whole thing will shut down, and I'll have to reopen Procreate. If it does it right, then it copies it just fine, just like that, and we're good. I'm going to take the bottom layer and merge it together to create a single shape. I'm going to select that single shape, and now we're going to go ahead and start doing some of my fun techniques. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the light being on top of him and the shadow being below him this time, which is something I haven't tried yet. And I, like I said, be brave, do things differently, so we're going to do that here today. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all of the artwork that I have here. Make sure that you turn off the top layer so that you can see what you're erasing. Okay. He's about to become a very white dog. Okay. All the way up through the top of the face. Get everything you can. Don't miss anything as much as possible. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and select a highlight yellow, which is almost like a pastel yellow. It needs to be as bright and vibrant as you can get it. Grab an airbrush, and from the top down, I'm going to begin airbrushing from the ears down. And I'm not going to do everything. I'm focusing on where the light's going to hit. So on the top of his head here, kind of like that. Across the top of his shoulders, kind of like that. That's really all I want to hit. Okay. If you want to come down his arms, you can. Now we are going to make a brand new layer. Since I still have everything under the selection tool, which is very, very helpful. Now I'm going to go grab my shadow tone, which I use a a deep red, and coming up from the bottom, I'm going to shade the areas that would be roughly in shadow. And this is just a very rough shadow. This is not supposed to be anything crazy. It's not supposed to be exact. It's supposed to be what I would call an atmospheric shade. Okay? I mean, I can make my brush a little bit smaller, but I'm going to be focusing on heavy shadows here in a few minutes. So for right now, this is all about just getting little areas. Sides of the face here, things like this. This will all kind of just merge together in the final. Okay? So hopefully that looks pretty cool, just like that. Looks kind of epic. I'm going to turn on my original layer. I'm going to drop it below that group. And now it should have kind of a different take on it. On the bottom layer, I'm going to drop the bottom layer below the highlight. The bottom layer, I'm going to turn it to multiply, and I'm going to drop its opacity. And then on the top layer, I'm going to turn it into add, and I'm going to drop its opacity. And it should have put a really cool atmospheric kind of effect on it, and immediately kind of dropped some of the structure and given it a little bit of depth. Okay? So that's just the start. We got a long way to go, but it does look pretty cool. Now, next thing I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and do another symmetry thing again, where I'm only going to affect 1/2. Can I do that? Yeah, I'm just going to affect 1/2 of this, and then I'm just going to switch it. And no, I'm not, because it's more technical that way. So, never mind, I didn't say that. I'm going to make another layer. And with my red that I had before, I'm going to start painting in the deep shadows. And these are going to be the hard, crisp shadows. For all of you guys that have talked with me in the past and are like, what do I do to make my artwork better? And usually I get artwork from you guys where the shadows are soft because you used an airbrush like I just did. I tell you guys every time, use a hard airbrush. And not even use a hard airbrush, but use a hard brush period. And don't be afraid to leave hard shadows here. So I always like to, well, I usually like to start with the nose. It's not always, but I usually like to start with the nose. And I'm going to go ahead and consider about where that lip crease might be. Later! And we're going to go ahead and focus on filling out the bottom and filling out the top. Okay. And we're going to paint in the bottom of the cheek. That was my father-in-law, by the way, if you were curious. He's got some errands to run today, I think. So, you can see I'm just starting to build up on some of these key shadow areas, like the bottom of the jaw and where it would reflect off of the upper neck and stuff like that. Carry that into the collarbone area. And sometimes, I gotta be quite honest, sometimes I choose my shadows based on what I think would look cool and not so much on where the sun may or may not be. Like maybe what I'll do here is I'm gonna take the shadow up right through the eye. So we'll come through here. Okay. And maybe I'm gonna push the shadow up through here, try and follow this curvature of the muscle, and then come up through here and maybe finalize it here. I know that's weird, but you'll see sometimes in the final piece it just really has an interesting effect. And if it doesn't work, I start over and make changes, but when you get it just right, it's I think about, have you guys ever seen, what's that movie about that guy who turns into a llama? Emperor's New Groove. When the sun hits these hills just right, these hills sing. It's kind of the same idea. I want to make it look cool, and then once you actually see how it looks, I just want it to sing at you. I want it to feel like it was on purpose, structured, and certainly you want to try and get that effect. The other thing too is because I'm doing this and I'm not doing it in symmetry, it helps kind of break things up a little bit and kind of helps build out a little bit more of a structure in the face, and kind of helps give it some personality instead of it being exact. I mean, if you look at a sports team logo, they're awesome, but there's not personality in it as much as maybe in something that maybe wasn't built as perfectly symmetrical or as perfectly computerized. And that's personally why I do love having controlled lines in lines of being able to have stabilization in my inking. But in the same thing, I don't want it so much so that it removes my personality. I actually want some of my mistakes in this artwork. I want my mistakes to show somewhat, so it can be seen that this is not computer created perfectly. This was computer created, computer assisted. I mean, yes, it's a digital piece that is definitely created from scratch, but it's a digital piece that still has heart and personality in it. It was not hand vectored with a mouse and structured, even though that's beautiful, beautiful, crazy stuff that people do with that. But I like this feeling of reality in it. There's something that's not perfect about it. Take that shadow up through the ear and then pull it back down. And I'm putting more shadow on one side of the face than on the other. And I haven't gotten to the other side of the face just yet, but I'm not going to do nearly as much on the left-hand side of the face. I keep most of my shadows on the right-hand side. So as I continue to build up these structures and things, it kind of helps. Just kind of changes it up a little bit. Okay, let's take this down this way, and let's take this way. There we go. That looks pretty cool. I do want lots of shadow under this eye, and then I just want to keep this super light, so I'm going to pretend that most of the shadow is coming from this side of the face, so we're just going to keep that kind of like that. Okay. Maybe a little bit here. Maybe a little bit here. And just some defining stuff through here. Windy. Sorry about that, guys. Hope the microphone isn't too bad. Okay, on this side now, I'll put a lot of shadow on the bottom of the chain. There we go. Just kind of carry that around, and I want the chain to feel like it's resting on his skin, so I don't want a lot of shadow on the pendant itself. Okay. And I think I'm pretty cool with that. I think I'm about ready to see what this looks like. I love doing it like this because it's kind of a gift to me. It's kind of I'm doing things to surprise myself. So what I do now is we'll go to that shadow layer, and I'm going to select its layer attributes. I'm going to change it to multiply, and that looks pretty cool. And then I'm just going to drop it until I love how it looks. And about right there, I do love that. That screams awesome. That's what I wanted. That looks fantastic. That is really, really cool. So next we would be looking at the highlight structures and building up the highlight structures of the image. And what do we got here? 23 minutes? You know what? We're stopping here. And we're going to come back and look at highlight structures in the next video. This is just a good way to do this, so that way you guys aren't watching a full 80-minute long video of me doing this. We're just doing a little piece at a time. So we'll go ahead and work at the highlights in the next video, and we will get to do some shading and stuff like that that'll pop it a little bit more in kind of a vector way, but not quite yet. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you are enjoying this, because this is a lot of fun for me. Leave it in the comments below if you're enjoying this, and we'll come back and do some more soon. God bless you all. You are amazing and beautiful people. Keep being brave. Step out of that comfort zone. Do some more crazy art and push yourself. See you next time.